I welcome you all for International Teaching Month 2021 webinar on internet bullying. Before beginning the program, I will request everyone to please stay on mute. We will have the session on this topic for around 45 minutes, and then we will take your questions for next 15 minutes. So you all are open to pose your questions on chat box directly to me. And with this, I will request Professor Dr. Purvi Pokhariyal, Dean and Director, Institute of Law, Nirma University, to give welcome address.
So thank you, Amit, and thank you, Dr. Tamas Pongo, for accepting our invitation and being with us, even in a very crucial phase of your life. We do understand the kind of an anxiety you may have because of the family reasons. So we take this opportunity to welcome you to the Institute of Law, Nirma University. And as we know, we have a great association with your university. We also have a memorandum of understanding for the faculty and student exchange for the joint research. Probably I feel that this particular meeting and this International Teaching Month will provide a further opportunity to come to be very closer to each other, and probably we would like to take this memorandum of understanding forward. We expect you to be in touch with us in future as well, and we look forward an opportunity to invite you on the campus next year in this teaching month. And by the time, if our research interest match, probably our faculty colleague would like to have some kind of a research collaborations also with you. So with this note, not taking much of your time, on behalf of the university and students, I welcome you to the Nirma University campus. Thank you.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Now it's a pleasure for me to introduce Professor Dr. Tamas Pongo. He's a lawyer, senior lecturer at Institute of Public Law, Faculty of Law and Political Science, University of Szeged, Hungary. Professor Tamas has delivered lectures on human rights, constitutional law, legal English, legal argumentation techniques. His research interest focus on legal aspects of bullying, especially cyberbullying, students' freedom of speech, Facebook override board, and so on. In 2019, he has also won Hungarian National Scholarship and spent 4 months in the United States at Penn State Law and College of Law of University of Toledo. Since 2015, he worked as a program coordinator of the Gateway Chinese-Hungarian exchange program, and has also been involved in several national and international European Union funded research projects. It's a delightful moment for me to announce and also inform everyone and all the students that we have a MOU with a University of Szeged, Hungary as well. So Professor Pongo is going to talk about internet bullying. So friends, internet bullying has become a very, we can say, necessity. Internet has become a necessity in human life, and it is very important to keep internet free from toxicity. And one of the toxic element that we can find is internet bullying. So this topic become very important for all of us, faculties, students who are involved in higher education. So without taking much of your time, I request Professor Tamas Pongo to deliver his speech for the day.
Thank you very much. I hope you can hear me and see my presentation. If there is any technical issues, just let me know. First of all, thank you very much for Dean Purvi, for Shreya, and for Amit, all of your help for preparing this presentation and for inviting me. And this is a great pleasure and honor to me that finally I can be here and contact you and see your faces, even though it's just online and through the webcams. So I hope that our partnership with the two universities will develop further in the future. And as I heard, I'm open to any research projects, to any teaching activities, because I think that especially in these times, international cooperation is highly appreciated and it's very important. So I'm very glad to be here, and I hope that I can say and deliver a presentation that probably you find interesting and not just another moment when you said, yeah, I thought it would be better. So I try to do my best. Okay, thank you very much. So I like to start my topic on internet bullying or cyberbullying, as you can call them. And I found that it would be a good title if I say that cyberbullying is a global phenomenon, but you need to find local solutions. And I try to shed light why I'm saying this. First of all, I'd like to start with the presentation with such a word that where I'm coming from. So this is Hungary in the bottom or in the heart of Europe. And in Hungary, there is Szeged in the southeast part, and in the middle, there is the capital Budapest. So you can know where I'm coming from. This is our university building, the main building. And this is in the night, the Faculty of Law, which is right now under construction and renovation. And be careful if you talk to any Hungarian, because we know that foreigners like to mix Bucharest with Budapest, which is Romanian capital. So this is some of the jokes we get bored a bit, but we always hear those jokes. Like also, I'm Hungarian, then they ask me whether I'm hungry or not. And this is usually our coat of arms. And we have this joke that really I never heard that one before. So when I was in the US, as you told, or I lived in Lithuania as well, then they always made me these jokes. And I said, okay, thank you. Finally, can we talk about the topic? So this is just a bit of our cultural insights, how to be a Hungarian in the world. And right now about the topic, first of all, I'd like to tell you why did I choose to deal with the cyberbullying as a lawyer, because usually lawyers ask me, okay, but there are so many hot topics in law. Why did you choose something which is so interdisciplinary? And I said, when I was a young PhD student and I was sitting in the library in the late afternoon, I was looking for online freedom of speech issues. And I found the story of Olivia Penpraise. If you check her name on YouTube, then you can still watch her goodbye note, because she was one of the victims of cyberbullying who committed suicide due to this. I can say also it's a pandemic, even it's a different one. And to be honest, it was the moment when I decided that this is such an issue which requires lives, human lives, children lives. And I decided that I want to know more and I want to help people with my knowledge. And this is the reason how when I decided that I want to talk about and research on cyberbullying. Today's session, I have like 45 minutes, so I don't want to talk too much. And I'd like to go through about the main issues, why it is so difficult to tackle with bullying by the tools of law and by the means we have. Because first of all, it's very hard to find a complex definition, which also fit into legislation, into case law, and for schools as well. And this is how I'm going to show you why is it so difficult. I created and established an analytical framework. I'm not going to talk about that because it would require another 45 minutes. And also, I would like to inspire you that if you would like to tackle this phenomenon, always map the situation, the status quo in your local areas, because this is where you can make the biggest impact. And this is what I did in the Hungarian situation. And also, since we are in a higher education context, I would like to talk about whether we can establish an anti-bullying policy in a higher education context. So just about what I did before, I had a previous research activity as a doctoral research, and also I won a scholarship here at the university to make a survey when 126 students were questioned. And I will use in the course of my presentation some of their results. But to be honest, what was very surprising, I made this survey back in 2016, and none of the students even knew the word cyberbullying. So we had such an awareness issues that we don't even know what cyberbullying is. To be honest, the first bullying research at all was conducted in 2011. So only like 9 or now 10 years ago. Compared to Norway or Sweden, it was made in 1980. So we are like 30 years behind to the Scandinavian countries and to the United States. And as Amit already told, that I spent 4 months in the US in 2019. I won a national scholarship to go to the Penn State and the University of Toledo because I really wanted to establish an anti-bullying policy, like a draft policy for universities all around the world. So I established this policy both in English and in Hungarian. So if anyone interested, then I'm happy to collaborate on. And everyone loves statistics, but as Winston Churchill said, I only believe in statistics that I doctored myself. So I know that probably statistics are important, but I would like just to mention why I don't believe them. First of all, I said there is no widely agreed cyberbullying definitions. We have some key elements, but it depends what do you include or exclude into definition, and this is how you can set whether any conduct is bullying or cyberbullying or not. But it also statistics shows you some basic overview. That's the reason why I want to involve them into my presentation. So according to Child Rights and Youth Survey, which is an Indian NGO, they said that 1 out of 10 Indian adolescents are already experienced bullying. It is quite new because it was published in 2020. But half of them do not report, even though we have the technical background, even though they know that this is bullying or cyberbullying, they do not report. And there was another survey back in 2018 which said that 35% of Indian parents know that their children experience bullying. On the one hand, it's not a good thing that you have such an issue. On the other hand, it's very good that 1/3 of your country's parents are already knowing this problem and they understand, they recognize, and they talk about with their children. And I read another survey which said that like over 85% of the population of India already know about cyberbullying and bullying, and they recognize it as a problem, which I think it's a very high awareness activity. So I hope that Hungary will have in the same shoes soon. And another information that 66% of these cyberbullying contacts happened on any social media website in India, but I think it's the same in all around the world. So social media is one of the main platforms. And another breach between the two countries, that according to Hungary, every third Hungarian adolescent between the age of 10 and 18, according to the UNICEF report, is already affected by cyberbullying. To be honest, I don't think that we have such a bad situation or had back in the time in 2017, but I am convinced that right now this data is correct, unfortunately. And now I would like to ask everyone to visit this website, because all around the world you can participate. If you visit live.waxwood.com, and if you can connect with any of your devices, iOS, Android, mobile, tablet, whatever you want to. And if you are on this website, you can write this number. It will ask 5 digits. So insert this code. And hopefully, if you are now on, I will start and you have like 30 seconds. So it's now on. I'm sorry, I have to share it if I'm correct. Do you see the screen?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so if anyone is voting right now, then
I've shared the link on chat box as well, so students and participants can use that.
okay, it should be on. So I asked you, how would you describe cyberbullying with only one word? And as you can see, We have only 2 votes so far. If you see that this is like harassment and traumatization. Okay, so probably these are the words which we would use, like invasion, harassment, torture, traumatizing. So these are very, very true ideas, and there are a lot if you put in a word cloud, and I can share it with anyone if you're interested. But right now, I would like to go back and continue my presentation. I hope you can see it. And thank you for your answers. Keep your mobiles with you because then you will use it. Is it correct? I mean, you can see my presentation right now?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Yes. Okay, thank you very much.
Yes.
Okay, so what bullying, thank you for your answers. Keep online because I will have several other questions as well. Okay, so what is the difference between bullying and cyberbullying, and why do we have 2 schools? One said that cyberbullying is just another tool, and the other said that no, it's not another tool, it's a completely new phenomenon. And these are the reasons, and you can decide whether you are belong to either of these groups. The issue is that usually if we talk about school bullying, so it happened on the schoolyard, and you know who was actually the person who committed the bullying and who was the perpetrator, the so-called, if you use criminal law terminology. And they said that you had always a safe place to escape, because when you left the schoolhouse gate or when you're home, then you don't have to face the consequences of bullying. Well, it changed with cyberbullying because we are online 24/7. There is no safe place where we can go. And I think back in the time, there was no anonymity. So I know who was the one who was taunting you, humiliating you, ridiculing you. But right now, with the question of anonymity at hand, we don't really know who is that, because according to research, over 80% of school bullies, they know each other with the victim in person. But there is the left of like around 20%, which they don't know, they are outsiders. So I think that cyberbullying has a crucial effect and crucial impact on children's and adolescents' life, because they don't know who is attacking or so-called attacking. So what I did, and probably you should do if you would like to react on cyberbullying, is checking what is missing in your country and what do you have. When I started my research as first steps, we had no anti-bullying legislation. We don't have any anti-bullying laws so far. We don't have any programs, or we had some programs, but some minor and small local ones, and most of them ran out of their finances, so they could not continue their work. So it is an issue. We had a very scant academic literature, especially in the field of law. So we did not research the legal background of cyberbullying and bullying at all. It is getting better in other fields than law. So in teaching, teaching journals, or psychologists of Hungary are trying to focus more likely on cyberbullying, but lawyers not really. And we have a lack of state and governmental support. Steve, to be honest, it's not state focus right now. So we don't have any research on cyberbullying in Hungary so far. And the question of today, or I can say the week, the months, the decade, or the year, is how to define cyberbullying from a legal perspective. Why do you think that I'm so nagging with this, that I need a definition? I'm telling you a very brief story what happened in Hungary. In the everyday language, they told that online harassment is the same as cyberbullying. Yeah, it sounds okay a bit, but in Hungarian law, we already have an harassment definition in discrimination law. We already have another one in criminal law. And right now they told that cyberbullying without any legal background is also online harassment. So for a psychologist or for a teacher, who would like to understand the essence and they are dealing with the students and they want to help them, I think for them it doesn't matter how we categorize it as lawyers. And I agree and I appreciate their job because it's true. However, when it comes to law, then you really need to define whether I need to use by the means of the criminal law or the discrimination law, so the constitutional law, or it is not a question of law, it's beyond that, so you need to find another help. And that's the reason why I found it crucial to define it in a legal sense. And I started it at the supranational level with the United Nations, where there was an annual report of a special representative. And you can see what are the key elements of cyberbullying. They said it's aggressive, intentional, but most importantly, please focus on these words repeatedly: power imbalance, but there is a consequences of a single act. The EU had a research, so this is not a policy paper, it is just a research material which was updated in 2013, but the repetition and anonymity and the wider audience is also here. So when you try to figure out what are the key elements for like international organizations, then you can focus on those papers. But I went further and I wanted to know legislative approach. However, if you look for legislation for more research material, the only country where you can find like 50 anti-bullying laws is the United States. So what did I do? I examined all US anti-bullying laws, all the 50 states. When I started the research, Montana has none. So then only had for 49, but right now Montana has an anti-bullying law. And also I checked the draft legislation, so the bill of a federal Cyberbullying Act, which called after the first victim, Megan Mayer, Cyberbullying Prevention Act. But to be honest, after that, I realized that only 27 US laws are actually using the correct terminology of cyberbullying. The others did not mention it or just said that, okay, we put the word electronically into the bullying definition and that's enough. And I said, no, you need to define and understand the differences. So I revealed the most important legislative elements. There were 12 of them. Just be comfortable because I will not talk all of them. If you're interested, I wrote some papers and you can read it, but definitely I will just mention the most important one. So the most prevailing elements of a cyberbullying definition, according to legislators in the United States, is harm and physical injury, because 23 states out of 27 included into the definition, the damage to the property, the right to education, which means that in the United States and most countries, there is a collision between the student's freedom of speech, who is the bully, and the other's right to education, because there is a decreasing academic performance, anxiety. So there are many consequences which are happening due to the bullying conduct. And if you deprive anybody of the benefits of education, then you're actually violating the right to education of that student. And repetition was included in 16 states, but California and Illinois, they said that only a single access is enough. So what I'm asking you, please go online again and go and write the code again, or if you don't need to write, then you can go, and I'm going to share my screen again. And right now you can vote whether you think that cyberbullying could be committed by a single act or a repetition is a necessary element, so you cannot use these. Yeah, this is why it is so hard to do bullying research, because you can see 60 to 40%, and right now it's 50-50. So it's really not easy to decide what should we do. So I think in this moment, you can see why it is so difficult to find a complex cyberbullying definition, because right now we have only just 14 people's idea, and all the 14 people have 50-50, whether we need single act or whether we need repetition. And now we have 15 votes. So now you you can really understand why is it so difficult. Thank you for your votes. And if we go further, I hope you can see my slides. Then there is the, Amit, if you don't see, just let me know, okay? Thank you. So whether we need a single act or repetition. So I said in the 16 states of the United States, 2 has bills which failed, so remained unsuccessful. They use different terminology. They use pattern, persistent, repeated, systematically. So it's always changing. But what California and Illinois said, a single act is enough, but repeated is also included. So they said, do not decide between single act and between repetition. Both can establish cyberbullying conduct. Illinois had the same. But what academics say, and we will talk about more, it's power imbalance. Why is it so important? I will talk about it a bit later. So according to my survey, as I mentioned, which I did back in the time, back in 2016, then we have like 126 Hungarian students from K8 and K11 classes, and they advised me that, because there was like open-ended questions, that if you can have the power to do it, involve single act into any solution, because we think that even one post without the comments can cause such a bullying conduct. Of course, it is debatable. All of my results are open to debate and discussion. So I'm not saying that I know what's the good. No, I made the research. I want to help people, and I'm very happy if anyone can help me to improve my research. And now back to the power imbalance. So power imbalance is involved in the legislation only in 6 states out of 27, which I examined. And Nevada in 2015 even abolished. So it said, I erase it from the law, it's not as important. Do you know why? Because it's not a case law or legislative idea. It is a pure academic definition. All of the academics, I will show you some definitions about from academics, and they said, without power imbalance, we cannot even talk about bullying or cyberbullying. And do you know why? Because to be honest, maybe it's going to be too oversimplified, but to be honest, it's true. Bullying is about a fundamental fight for dominance in a group. We're human beings, and no matter which group you are in, there is always a dominant one, and there are always like subordinates. No matter what you say, and I'm not talking about like legally, we have the same rights, but if you feel that, okay, usually he's like a leader because of their very nature. So I'm not saying that it's in the field of law. No, I think people are equal. They have the same rights and the same duties. So there is no distinction on the field of law. But in the field of like sociology or psychology, we all know that there are different types of human beings, and some of them are more like alphas, like in the animal world. And even in the US terminology, when you talk about bullying and between girls, there is a word so-called queen bee, which refers to a girl who is a leader of a group between the girls in the school. So if you think about it, then basically this is a fight for dominance. And why is it important to recognize it in, I'm saying and really emphasizing, not in a legal sense, but in a more human sense? Because in Hungary back in 2015, there was a group who were working with peer mentoring programs. And the basic idea was there that the bully in the school wants dominance. So if we punish the bully, it's not a solution. What we can do, we educate the bully, and we left the dominance to him or her and let them to be the dominant, but right now not working against us, but working with us. And this is why peer mentoring programs are so successful all around the world, because you left the dominance for someone who is dominant anyway, and you educate them, ask for their help, and they feel that they still have such a power, but they're using for good purposes. So this is what my research resulted. And I think that we must include in each and every bullying and cyberbullying definition all around the world that power imbalance is the key element. Because without power imbalance, it's just a battle. So if like 2 leaders has 2 ideas at a conference, then leading scholars, for example, it's just a discussion. It's necessary in a democratic society. When it comes to humiliating and ridiculing, then there's another scenario. So the few academic definitions, as I promised, Dan Olvos, he is the leading scholar of bullying. The Hinduya and Pechin, they are leading scholars from the United States, and also other scholars you can see. And just to be honest, here you can see the power imbalance, but in the bullying definition, it is included. And also they said that the power imbalance is an essential part of cyberbullying as well. So the power imbalance is also here. Here you can find it. So it's not everyone included, but most of them you can find the power imbalance in the academic definitions. So my research findings in one overview, in one chart, as you can see, I checked whether it's in the academia, the legislation, in the case law. I don't have time to analyze the case law as I told you beforehand. So that's the reason why I'd more likely focus on academics and legislation, because this is how I give you a hint. And as you can see, if something is involved in the academia, like it's necessary, maybe in the legislation, but not necessary in the case law. And you can see it's only a few when you can say that, yeah, it's included in everyone. This is why so hard to establish a cyberbullying definition. Even though you think, come on, it's just a definition, you write something and then we're gonna just find another way to define it. So after the research, I realized that, okay, I wanted to create a complex cyberbullying definition when I take into consideration the legislative elements, the case law ideas, and the academic opinions. So this is my definition, which I created. This, as you can see, I take the advice of my students, and I decided not to decide whether it's single or repeated, but to go in the golden middle way and find that, okay, it's a single or repeated conduct committed by or against student or school employee. We could discuss about whether a school employee should be involved or not, and through an electronic device. So it's not necessary via online. You can do it with text messages as well. And it attempts to cause power imbalance and also causes like physical or mental harm, damage of property. You can explore and discover here the legislative elements, here the academic elements, and also you create a hostile educational environment, so right to education is violated. And the other question, which is part of it is more likely a case law approach, then okay, but whether if I'm a school, can I actually curtail freedom of speech because somebody is necessary, somebody's rights is going to be violated? And I said in school, during school hours, yes, the school has such a right. At any event which is outside the school premises, but it is school supervised or supported or organized, then yes, they have the right. And also in case of off-campus electronic speech. So off-campus is you're sitting at home on Sunday morning and you write something or post something and it will have a significant effect on the school environment on the next morning, so on Monday, then it's off-campus speech. So schools has many troubles in the US case law especially, but all around the world. What should we do? Because it's not school premises, it's outside school hours. And I said, if there is a sufficient nexus between the school, so the school activity, and the speech itself, then we should examine, this is step 1, and step 2, we should examine whether the speech caused substantial disruption in the school environment. Substantial disruption established by the Supreme Court of the United States in the decision of Tinker. And to be honest, the Tinker decision was in 1969, so it's quite old. It's in the Vietnam War era, which means that it's not really updated. But in 2018, there was a dissenting opinion of Judge Graves in a Bell decision. It was a circuit court decision, so not a circuit court one. And he wanted to develop the Tinker test to fit into today's environment. And I think this is the way we may want to follow. And now we focus, after we had the definition, on the higher education context. And I don't know whether you heard it or not, but there was a case during the Trump administration in the United States about the University of Michigan case, when the issue was that Michigan introduced a new anti-bullying policy, and this anti-bullying policy, reached elements and choose elements from the Michigan anti-bullying law and from the Merriam-Webster dictionary as well. And the Speech First Incorporated said that the issue is the Merriam-Webster dictionary's bullying definition is unconstitutional because it's too vague and overbreadth. So it is very interesting that Merriam-Webster is like the Oxford dictionary version of in the US, and they said that their definition is basically unconstitutional. At the end of the case, this part of the bullying definition was erased from the University of Michigan policy, but it went to court. Another way how you should look into the situation, then Smith and Kohler's research said, after they checked faculty code of conduct, they said that they found only 8 references to bullying, but none of them was a defined policy which really focused on bullying and cyberbullying at hand. But I found that Barrett and Wu in 2015 actually found schools who have anti-bullying policies. I wrote a research paper on that if you're interested. And this is like the University of West Alabama, the Sacred Heart University. There are many others, like back in the time of the Rogers University, which has a very sad case about Tyler Clementi, who committed suicide at the university due to cyberbullying. But Rogers University anti-bullying policy cannot be found on their website right now. So there is an anti-bullying policy in higher education in some schools, but we need to find out whether we need it or not. And I have the research idea that, okay, let's assume that we need it. How should it look like? And I said at the higher education level, first of all, you have a jurisdiction in the scope, which means that you must have a substantial university interest. Probably you would have the question, okay, what is substantial university interest? And I would say it is like if it constitutes a violation of local, state, or federal law, it depends which country you're in, or if that student or a student organization present a danger or threat to health or safety of somebody, and if there is a significant violation of somebody's rights, so impinges with other rights, or it has a detrimental effect on the school or the university's educational interest. Of course, I'm not saying that this is a good model. I spoke at the Penn State and the UT with student conduct officers and leaders, and I told them that, do you know that if I would be a student, this might be attacked at court and I would win because I said it's too vague. What does it mean? And they said it's a very old test and nobody ever attacked it at court, so brought that case to court. And I thought, okay, then I think it's a good solution, but when you implement it to another system, you need to be very carefully focused on that. So as I tell you in the title, think global, look at everyone and everyone ideas, but then act local. So you try to understand that whether it fit into your legal system or not. The second element is you need to be narrowly tailored with the definitions. As I told you, bullying and cyberbullying is not so easy to define. Bullying may be easier because we have like 40 or 50 years of research and we are agreed on the key elements, but cyberbullying is not so easy, as I told you in the first part of the presentation. And then you need to establish violations, students and student scenario, whether you want to include faculty and students when somebody is constantly humiliating their students during the classes, whether it's bullying or not, especially in the online classes and the online teaching, or the faculty and faculty would you like to include or not. These are questions you must decide. As I told you, I made a draft policy. It can be stretched into each way. The fourth part is you need a reporting procedure, and I really believe that anonymous reporting is working, since anonymity is on one hand a weapon to the bully. On the other hand, it could be a shield for the victim because you said, okay, or even if you're not a victim, but you are like a bystander and you would like to report it, you can report without your name. And honestly speaking, I was really worried about it when I started the research, whether it's a good idea or not. But when I was talking to the US officers, they told me that they have a perfect solution for that. Usually, if they have a feeling, it has a retaliatory effect. So it was committed by a student who want to get retaliation, then probably that's the reason why they report this incident. We call them for an informal meeting. So they just want to talk, and they can filter whether it's a real and actual procedure they need to initiate, or it's just someone who want to joke with the system. So I truly believe anonymous reporting is a good one, and US student conduct officers reassured me about this assumption. And last but not least, the sanctions. You need sanctions. So even in the most severe cases, expulsion is on the table. However, I believe that usually in higher education, a non-punitive approach is more valuable and more appreciated. For example, if somebody has like a minor issue, then you send them, like the US scholars are doing or US student conduct officers are doing, that okay, you have to participate in a decision-making workshop. You have to organize an anti-bullying day with the student union. So these educative measures seem to me that they are effective and they can actually help to promote and raise awareness on cyberbullying issues. And I'm a constitutional lawyer at first hand, so I need to focus on the constitutional issues as well. And to be honest, the substantial university interest test is a good way how you want to handle off-campus behavior in a higher education context. But I told you whether it's narrowly tailored enough according to your legal system. So if you would introduce into your policy at a university, are you sure that it will pass your constitutional muster, which is varies from state to state, and even from range, even maybe some regions if there is a huge country. So I think that there is a constitutional issue you need to resolve beforehand. Second of all, I'm emphasizing time and time again, you need to find narrowly tailored good definitions for both bullying, cyberbullying, but also who is a student, who is a faculty, so who is under the scope of your policy. The freedom of speech is also at hand and in question, because in the European Union, our protection is based on human dignity. So we have a completely different approach than the United States First Amendment as a paramount law, which means that if we want to implement something from the US system, for example, then we need to focus on how we approach of these ideas in our legal system, because in the civil law country and in Anglo-Saxon countries, so common law countries, are very different. And I think you need to focus on that very much when you introduce your policy. And the anonymous reporting system, you need not only define whether you let anonymously report a bullying conduct, but also how you're going to collect evidence. And last but not least, which standard you want to use. The US systems, those who has, or in any other student code of conduct cases, they are using the so-called preponderance of evidence standard, which means that the conduct or the scenario more likely happened than not. This standard is way below the criminal laws beyond the reasonable doubt, which means that you have different standard in academic environment, academic sanctions and violations of the code of conduct than in the criminal law. And you need to very focus on that, which kind of standard you're going to introduce into your policy. And right now, I would like to ask everyone to visit again the live.voxworld.com and insert the pin. And then I start, I'm sorry. I hope you can see. So it's already on, and you can vote whether would you introduce an anti-bullying policy at your university. Well, it seems to me that it's quite anonymous. Okay, so you would like to introduce an anti-bullying policy at your university. I'm very glad to hear that, because it means that you probably have the same idea as I had when I started my research. So thank you very much for your answers. And if we continue and jump to the conclusions, then I would say that if you want to introduce a policy, or if you think global on cyberbullying and you want to do something or act local, then you really find the ideas of freedom of speech first, because we have different limitations. I said in the US and in Europe, but definitely in India as well. So you need to really figure out the limitations of speech and freedom of expression, so to speak. You need to narrowly define what cyberbullying is, because it's crucial. And also you have to find a solution. What happens if something is going on online, outside of the school premises, in non-school hours? And how would you resolve in a policy, as you're a policymaker, or even if you're a legislator, the substantial university interest that could be a good solution if you find a good way how to implement it? And I suggest to introduce anonymous reporting system as well, because as a bystander, you would be more likely willing to report someone if you don't have to face the consequences, and you can use anonymity as a tool, as a means to help the victims as well. And this is my idea, that I really don't believe in punitive approaches. I more likely like to focus on educative ones. I believe that students all around the world, no matter whether it's in a K1 to K12 or in a higher education, they are basically not bad people. They are not criminals. Of course, there are exceptions all the time, but definitely I believe they need education and not punishment. So if you're, this is the end of my presentation. Thank you for listening to me, and really thank you for the invitation. And during these times, you can go and visit live.oxford.com. During the question hours as well, it will be open. And just type one word, what do you think? Because I like to save these word clouds when you have about it. So go on the website and tell you what do you think about the whole presentation. Thank you for inviting me, and I hope that I was within the time frame. I tried to be very precise, because I know that others are also waiting, and time is money for everyone. So thank you very much, and thank you for your attention, and I'm ready for some Q&A. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Pongo, for a wonderful presentation. And now we are open for Q&A. So anyone who have any questions, students, faculty, and participants, they can share with me. And before any question I receive, I would like to ask Professor Pongo, as you have done extensive research in United States. So which is, in which state, or maybe what is the most deterrent punishment, or which is there for cyberbullying in United States?
To be honest, it's a very good question. In North Carolina, it is a criminal law sanctioned activity, which means that they decided that they want to criminalize the action. And to be honest, I'm not sure about the sentences, but maybe it's a Class A misdemeanor. So it's not a felony, but it's a misdemeanor in North Carolina, for example. So
Right.
some of the states decided to go on with the criminal law sanctions.
All right. Friends, any question from your side? So there is one question that I take from a student side.
Okay.
What kind of defenses could be taken if somebody is falling as a victim of made allegations as to cyberbullying? So from other side, how it could be taken, because people are not much aware that they are doing cyberbullying. but they may be falling?
Yeah, it's a very good question. I think first of all, it's gonna be maybe an easy answer. You need to report such an activity, but you would say that, okay, I report, but they will create a new email address, a new Facebook profile, and they will attack again. And yeah, this is something you cannot really avoid with just reporting, but this is the step number one. And the step number two is when you try to block the users and surrounded by people in the online environment who give you power, and you do not focus on those mean comments. It's not easy because of course, if you have like 100 compliments and one mean comment, then you will focus on that. But it is really like it's called in psychology building up resilience. So you try to focus on yourself, but it's not easy. And the other way how I would say that you can maybe tackle with it is like having very stable offline connections. And I'm sorry to say that, but I really checked a lot of cyberbullying, anti-bullying issues, and you really need to be very strong offline and not to have like an online personality and living in two different worlds. Because if you live that, then you are always going to face cyberbullying and you really cannot defend against it. Because when we find a solution, okay, you report. Like the Facebook oversight board is a typical example of that. You're gonna get a mean comment, you report. It's not enough, or you don't believe it, then you go to the oversight board. Okay, they will find the solution, but no one can stop the anonymity of the internet. So no matter what you're doing, the only thing what you can actually do is try to be very strong in the offline environment and having friends, be open to your parents. And if I always say that there are different line of defenses, the number one or the first line of defense is always parents and the family members. You ask for help, you be open. If you don't believe that they can help you, then go the other line. This is like peers, your friends, your I don't know, they can be online or offline friends as well if you really trust them. Most likely offline friends is better. And you ask their help, what should we do, and that I worth something. And then if it's not helping, you can go for mental health, so psychologists. And as a last line of defense, you can go to court and try to get legal, how to say, like legal decisions, judgments against it. I'm not saying that it is good because it's really time consuming and it's very, very expensive. But I think that these are all the basic solutions, and more likely try to always focus somebody on your neighborhood, whether you understand like decreasing academic performance, then who were open-minded beforehand, they try to be more closed down and they started to show the signs of anxiety or depression, and then you try to be that and help them. This is, I think, I'm not saying this is the best solution, but I truly believe that acting locally and more likely offline, then they can help you to prevent these online ideas.
Yeah. We have some questions from faculties, but before that, I take another question from one of our student, Pallavi Mishra. She want to know that how we can differentiate between trolling, harassment, and cyberbullying.
Yeah, it's a very good question. So I think that harassment is how you define it in your criminal code. This is the difference. So harassment is a very special fact and factual understanding. For example, in Hungarian criminal code, it must be repeated with someone who had already previous connections, and it is going on any telecommunication devices with the intention to cause physical or mental harm. If any of those missing, or if there are extra elements, they are not involved in the definition. So it said it's harassment and it's punishable under criminal code. In our discrimination harassment, it said that if you are, how to say, you're handled in a situation as a subordinate, so like you're discriminated, but based upon your any protected characteristics, so your gender, your sexual orientation, which is not included in the criminal code. So they don't care about whether you're harassed because of your, I'm so to say, like you're gay. Okay. So these are differences. And I think cyberbullying is more like an umbrella term, and it is more widely protected, and it's not part of the criminal law, according to my understanding. So this is how I would differentiate, but you need to look up your definition, which you want to use. And I think that cyberbullying is mostly beyond the law. So there are actions which do not rise to the level of a criminal action or even to a civil lawsuit, but it already causes significant damage to the mental health of a student because they don't want to go to school next day. It's not a crime that somebody in a as a teenager don't want to go to school, but if you know in the background that this is because he or she is receiving mean comments, then I think it's bullying, but not does not rise to a level of a civil or criminal procedure.
Yeah. Next question I have from our faculty, Dr. Bishwa Kalyan Das, who also teaches cyber law. So it's a very practical question that in most of cyberbullying cases, the matter at institutional level gets compounded. How do you see that the criminality and the rights perspective versus compounding of such events?
Excuse me, could you repeat it because
Yeah.
it's...
So in most of the cyberbullying cases, the matter at institutional level gets compounded. So how do you see the criminality and rights perspectives vis-a-vis compounding of such events?
So the institutional level, what
Yeah.
this is
So,
more like a purpose?
Yeah, maybe Bishwa sir, if you could unmute yourself and ask question uh, with more explanations. Just a second.
Because I don't know if he's focusing like how the criminal institutions can handle
I'm
these
just
situations.
trying to say that.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to say that most of the cyberbullying cases in university or institutional level, it gets settled before it reaches to the stages of taking cognizance over the matter. But at the same time, the person who is a victim has some rights against getting bullied, and the law also, the law of crime also gives you a way out how to deal with such matters, just like we have our criminal laws. But how do you contrast between getting those matters sorted at the institutional level and not letting it to reach to the adjudicatory bodies?
Okay, now I thank you very much. Now I understand your question. To be honest, I think that I'm not sure that you can do it, to be honest. So what I see at the US experience is they let the two ways to go in parallel. So you said that, okay, we have an academic standard, the preponderance of evidence standard, which means that we are examining your case under that. And it could happen that, for example, a bullying conduct will cause a sanctions and the violation of the student code of conduct because of the preponderance of evidence standard. But simultaneously, you go to court for criminal matters when you have the beyond the reasonable doubt standard. And Davis said, no, it's not a crime because it did not reach the level of beyond reasonable doubt, but it is an academic violation and you will reach that level. So you're going to be punished for that. So this is how I see the institutions, that they go parallel, they have different standards. And I truly believe that the academic standard should be lower, much lower than the criminal law one. I hope it answered your question.
One more question from faculty side, Professor Surekha want to ask, what is personality profile of cyberbuller? Can you please shed some information if you have some data from your jurisdiction?
So I'm sorry, it's just...
So she want to know about the personality profiles of the people who commit cyberbullying.
Oh, okay. Well, who commits cyberbullying? I would love to know each and every one why we do it, but I truly believe that most of the cyberbullies, they know the people in person, and there are I have data that there are usually 2 or 3 types who commit. The one who are dominant offline and they want to keep the dominance online. The other type who is like a victim of offline bullying, and they have the technical knowledge. So they go home, go online, and they start to be cyberbully those who were actually bully them offline. So this is the other one. Usually they know each other. And there is the last one, which happened in the case of Amanda Todd. Then there was a just a random guy who actually created a fake Facebook profile, and they started to bully Amanda, which means that they win their trust, and then they decided to do video chat, but the guy decided to go without a webcam, and he has to show the, how to say, the breasts in the camera. He took the screenshot and shared within the groups of Facebook where Amanda was involved. So I would say that there are these three types. So more or less, of course, there are always, life can provide new examples, unfortunately.
Yeah, thank you very much, sir. So now we have no more questions, and we proceed further. The whole vision of this program, which is designed by Professor Dr. Purvi Pokhariyal, that is International Teaching Month, is to give students an opportunity to interact and learn from the faculties who are best in their field. With the International Teaching Month, she has created a global, we can say, village for the students at home. So with this note, I would like to invite one of our bright student, Mr. Adesh Shinde, student of BA LLB 8th semester, to deliver vote of thanks.
Good afternoon, everyone. Gratitude is the fairest blossom which springs from the soul. And today, I, Adesh Shinde, on behalf of Institute of Law, Nirma University, would like to extend a heartfelt gratitude to Dr. Tamas Pongo for sharing his valuable insights on cyberbullying with all of us. Cyberbullying is, in fact, a very contemporary issue, and he has very rightly highlighted on the need to have a policy framework for the same. And India currently has more than 700 million active internet users, and it is projected that by 2025, we'll have 1 billion internet users. So the magnanimity of this legal issue is beyond, and it has excellent opportunities for us as legal professionals in this field. And so I'd also like to thank our Professor Dr. Purvi Pokhariyal, our Director and Dean at Institute of Law, for her vision of the International Teaching Month and for the way that she has revolutionized the International Teaching Month by bringing it home at ILNU. I'd also like to thank our Professor Dr. Amit Kashyap sir for moderating this session. And I also would like to thank Professor Shreya Srivastava ma'am for the smooth coordination of the event. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Adesh. Thank you very much, sir. This has been a wonderful session, very lucid yet precise. So I hope that all students as well as faculties has benefited out of this discussion today. It had been a very interactive as well. So I'm very much thankful to you for your presence and sharing your research with us on very, very important and very contemporary topic, that is internet bullying. So I hope now all participants has been sensitized and will take this forward and share the knowledge with all fellows.
Thank you for being invited, and thank you for being here. It means a lot to me, and I hope you enjoyed the presentation. And finally, sometime we can meet in person as well. I wish you good luck and persistence during these hard times. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.